damaged a child, we could have been liable for many thousands of pounds of liability. And it was because we were effectively doing a job that was contracted to Jason, but was now done by somebody else, a member of this council. And you have to say that that is a lesson learned for everybody, because and so I would urge any jobs in future that have to be done, if at least they can just phone me up and say, look, I want to start a job on a certain date, I can then say, right, okay, there are no issues as far as I know. If I think there is going to be an issue, I'll obviously communicate with the council and ask them.
So can we propose that then, as a council, that any contractors are to deal directly with you
They must.
and not with us?
We are going to, we will be, as part of the audit group, which I'd like to change in the name, but anyway, part of the audit group in December is going to have to be deferred to December. We would have done it this afternoon, but we had the other thing today, where Owen has produced a draft terms and conditions of contract for our contractors. And as part of that discussion, that is going to be incorporated. I think we ought to incorporate it within that. In other words, things like anything they do has to comply with relevant legislation. I mean, Owen actually quoted the legislation, but we can debate that in more detail. But and then once that group has gone through it, and then we can bring it forward to the council. But going forward, I think in this instance it's where you get more than one party involved in, and one can't do the other unless that particular issue has been done. And if nobody's coordinating it, it just ends up in a muddle. But the other thing, of course, is some form of risk analysis on any activity, as Owen has rightly said, because the first thing I said, God forbid we were looking at a personal injury claim.
I know I haven't been here, but I don't understand how we had agreed to bring in a contractor to do a service, and that's being put by the by, and how as somebody who gave permission for that work to be done on the day, and how if something's gone wrong, and I do understand something with David, how today are we liable for that when David wasn't working for us as a parish council. I know he's a parish councillor, but it wasn't from our instruction, and I don't think that it's fair that local people's money should be paid out for compensation for not the fault of the parish council. I might be talking out of turn, and I know it's really awkward because you're in the room, David, and I don't.
No, with greatest respect, David was asked to spray the verges of the village green and to deal and trim around the car park because it was a mess.
By who?
By us. That is true, isn't it?
No.
You were asked to do it.
Yeah, the spraying.
Spraying, that's
But not any cutting.
No, it was spraying, not cutting. So because spraying, if it was just spraying, that wouldn't be a problem.
No.
But it was the cutting that was the issue, not the spraying. Which is the point I think you're making, Andrew.
It is. It is, because again, we are filmed, and people could look back and say, hang on a minute, where was it agreed? Yes, it was supposed to be Jason, and it was supposed to be Andy Selway to do the painting. Then how did somebody else get involved? Where did that permission come, and who's actually liable? Because I don't think the parish council is liable to pay this money, because we didn't make that decision.
I think one of the things, and I think I'll just raise as a final point on it, I did speak to Kane Company, our insurers, and gave them the scenario that we faced. And I asked them what would happen if we had a more serious issue, in other words, if somebody had been injured, so on and so forth. And they said they would pay on liability providing that they could see the minute of the meeting for which the contractor had been employed. So in other words, for example, we had to show that Jason was the appointed contractor for that job, for the liability to be accepted by the insurance company.
And I would say, that if that had happened with Jason would have had public liability
Jason would pay
insurance,
for it.
and he would have paid for it. And
Like I do if I was working under
Yeah.
contract.
Exactly. So I think
That's where it's
that
grey area.
we, as councillors, you know, I believe that, as you know, this is going to come back and bite us because it's inappropriation of our funds. And I don't think that it's fair. I think that Pauline should be paid. I don't have no issues about that because I think the damage was done. But I do question whether the money should actually come from the parish council on this occasion.
That's right. Peter, do you want to say something?
Well, I thoroughly agree with Andrew, but the thing is that, I mean, it's a question of after the horses bolted, I think we should accept that this amount of payment now, bear in mind exactly what she said, in as much as we've got to rigidly stick to the rules and not interfere when contractors are involved. But, I would say, there is another exception on footpaths, and that is Bob and I have got our ability from a county, we can go and pat around on the footpaths.
Yeah. But I think this is why in some ways we need to look at these terms and conditions. And I know people might say, oh yes, but it's all blah blah blah. But we really need to tighten because I think this is a salutary example of what could have gone seriously wrong.
I have produced a sort of an outline document for terms and conditions. It's more complicated than it's more complicated than it needs to be. I think we need to simplify it a bit. It's 4 pages at the moment. I don't think we need 4 pages for the size of council that we are. However, there are some useful bits within it which we can take out and use. And I think if the monitoring group want to have a look at that next month, they can then come to the council and say, are you happy to approve those?
But I think as a point of principle, I would like to propose, irrespective of how long it takes to agree that particular element of work, that any issues of contractors instructing contractors should be coordinated through Owen.
I could agree with that.
Is that unanimous? That must be very clear. It must be unanimous as well, really, to be honest.
Any objections? Thank you. So, and I think in most instances that happens, but certainly if any of the contractors approached any of us as individuals and said, what about this, please refer it to Owen.
And I mean, Owen's good for answering the phone, you know, your mobile. We can always get hold of you. It's not as if you've just got a phone number.
I think we might have to think about a contingency issue, an emergency, and we might have some delegated people to contact, such as chairman or deputy chairman, when there was an issue over the electricity board trying to get access to that transformer, and we had to break down the gate, and they rang me, and I said, oh, well, you know, so
we can use the other numbers, can't we?
We can. There will be the exceptions, but we need to have a clear understanding. And the other issue as well that came to my mind is if we have an incident, who it should be reported obviously to Owen, I think. Again.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to. We need to keep some sort of record. I should keep a record of this incident, for example. I think we do need to keep some record of incidents that happen.
Is it like a non-conformity?
Yes, exactly the same principle. But do you recall we had a guy that slipped and broke his arm or leg or something, which we've recorded. But I think it's important. It's the principle of an accident book, but it's any incident. That we could be potentially seen liable because again the insurance company would look at what have you done, what have you done to prevent recurrence or whatever. So it's a salutary lesson.
It is, and we're learning all the time, aren't we? We're always learning lessons, really. Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry to labour that point, but I think it is important to clarify actually.
Monthly report from GB Sports, Owen to circulate it. And I think it's the usual. Anything on flood mitigation?
If any.
Yes, I've not seen anyone in the village from the Lower Broom Drainage Board turn out for a town gutter.
November, normally.
How is it?
Yeah.
So as of now,
Yeah.
I am conscious that the water table seems very high.
They'll be letting it go any day. Middle of the month, normally.
2 foot down, putting concrete posts in, and we found water.
Yeah.
Any reports from this afternoon?
Well, we had a number of issues raised this afternoon. There was, I just listed them. White lines on the corner of Manor Ride were requested. People getting their children off at school and then parking on the corner at Manor Ride, thinking they would like to put white lines around the sort of inside the road. I didn't hold out a lot of hope for that happening, but you know, I certainly said I'd bring it to the council. The East Ride issues reared their head again today. The lady came in from East Ride. The lady who had been the sort of main person dealing with this, Leslie Roy, is now looking to sell her bungalow as a result of all of this. So that she's obviously getting tired of the whole business. And they were just asking whether there's anywhere else I can go, and I simply said to them, we've explored everything. There's nothing that we haven't so far explored.
We didn't get any help from the environmental people?
Well, no, not at all.
None at all.
So I'm afraid there was not much I could give her there in terms of any support.
But OSPCA? Nothing?
Docs Trust have been contacted, Wardens have been contacted, environmental health, trading standards, they've all been contacted, and not one of them can do anything about it.
It's suspected.
Can't or won't?
Well,
It is.
We're interested in the well-being of the animals and the well-being of the neighbours.
I mean, but the other thing was mentioned last time that these animals were imported from Romania.
Well, there is suspected that she may be running a business.
What? Are they under quarantine?
well, funnily enough,
Should they be?
when the lady was here today, we had another member of the public, Jenny came in, and she was very, very certain that any animal that she would have would have been properly protected and quarantined. But you know, that's only Jenny's view. I don't know much about dogs, I'll be honest, so I couldn't tell you that. But there does seem to be an awful lot of contacts been made and very little support. But she raised it just because she felt the parish council would be aware of the fact that she's
The lady that's actually putting her house up for sale is the person that's wrote the diary,
That's right, yeah.
and she's been writing it for many, many years, you know, to show the evidence. And they're worried, you know, that's going to go as well, that they're going to lose the person that records it.
So an ongoing situation there really. The other issues that came up, dog bins, which obviously have come up before and which are on our agenda for later on, from Crooked Lane and Station Road area. That seems to be the area that is quite keen to get something there. And that was obviously after our article in the BKN, I guess, that was when that cropped up. Another lady mentioned the travellers application which we've dealt with, and then there was a general comment about hedges and pathways around the village in general. The lady was saying that, you know, often walking with children and so forth, she's often having to dodge overhanging branches and overhanging hedges, which can be very dangerous, particularly this time of the year when lighting is not very good. I did refer to the article that I put in the VKN 2 months ago. She would like something a bit stronger than that, but as I did point out to her, we have no powers as such. What we can do is remind owners of their responsibilities, but we don't have any powers to enforce it.
But if you do have a hedge which is overhanging the path, you are breaking the law.
Yes.
I mean, I spoke to David Bateman this week because I've been negotiating with the lady at number 143,
Yeah.
and she's agreed to talk to David, and I've told David to negotiate with her. Nothing to do with us as a council, but me as a person, as a near neighbour. So hopefully something will be done about it. But you are breaking the law.
Yeah. And as such, if somebody does have an accident, they can sort of they can prosecute the owner of the property in those circumstances. But it's not really to do with the council necessarily.
I think the compliance checking is not ours, it's highways, I guess, is it?
Yeah, I guess it would be highways. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had things reported to us and we can pass, unlike East Brent did on the hedge that we raised with them, they passed it on to highways to follow up.
Anything else?
So the only other thing is, we've heard now officially that we're not on the radar as far as police presence around surgery is concerned. The only parish nearby that has that is Limpsham. No other parish is actually served by a surgery, and that's because Limpsham have a very specific case. They have a coffee shop, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a community centre which is open, and where they use that facility for the surgery. So,
We provide free tea and coffee.
so I think unless we want to press it harder with the police, which we can do, I don't think we're going to see police presence at surgeries in the future.
Well, as long as we have a communication mechanism with them, that's the key issue, I think.
Yeah, and we do have that good one with PC Wills, because he's normally fairly proactive.
Okay, so moving on to any other matters for yourself?
No, there's not. The only thing I would say, that just a matter of information really, I'm going to a clerks get-together in Birmingham tomorrow, so all the local clerks are getting together to have a little bit of a conference. To share ideas, to share concerns, worries, whatever. So, watch the space really. Might come up with some good ideas, never mind.
Can you take counsel with you?
That's all right, that's all for me.
Correspondence.
The correspondence items on the table are things that have come about since the agenda was issued. And I think that's the nature of correspondence now. We used to put items on the agenda for correspondence, but of course it precludes things that come up since then, and it seems a pity for these items not to be discussed at a meeting when they've been brought before a meeting. So I think correspondence now is issues that are on the table as of the meeting date, I think, really.
Yep, I agree.
Unless they're things that need a decision. If it's just correspondence for information, and they can be presented to you here almost randomly, if it needs a decision, then it needs to be on the agenda. That's really the way it should work. We've got Mr. Brown, back there, talking about traffic lights. You all read Mr. Brown's letter, I take it. Possibly having 40 miles speed limit imposed from the Ealing roundabout in northerly direction. That's something which obviously, I guess, is now perhaps more relevant with the recent application being not granted. And then we've got this other letter here from...
Can we just talk about that briefly? I mean, is there scope to, as a council, to support such a proposal?
I guess the difficulty is tonight you can't make a decision.
I'm just as a principle. Can we as a council?
Would you like it as a agenda item?
I would like it because
Agenda item.
yeah, please. It's, I think we should take it all the way to Rooksbury
For
personally.
December. Okay, agenda item for December. We've then got this letter from Mr. Smith and Mrs. Tucker regarding what they believe to be an impending planning application near Exeter House. I guess you all read the letter. I don't know if you have any comments to make on it, or whether you want to...
We can't do anything about it.
There's nothing we can do at the moment, it's just
Until we
until they actually get the application.
the one on the station,
The old post office.
Okay.
where all the cars are parked.
Yeah.
So I will acknowledge the letter.
Yes,
I'll
please.
write back to them and say we have looked at it, and obviously we will look at any application as and when it arrives.
I'll just look at George and say, are you happy that we don't formally acknowledge your letter that we would...
True.
And then the only other thing there is the applications welcome from PC's Community Action Fund. This is grants that are available to the Parish Council, which we have actually had before, and we've just reiterated and reset the same thing again. So unless we might have some issues that fall into this category, things that we can get grants for, there's a clear set of criteria there.
With the speed watch signs that
I
were
guess
shown
that would be a
earlier.
typical one actually, that probably would come under that.
Yes.
So I guess that's another discussion for, when we've had the highways permission.
Is there a time limit on that application?
I think there is, but I think it's quite a long one. I'm just trying to see what it is about time. Well, on this particular batch of, it's the 1st of December, so it's going to be before the next meeting. But this is an ongoing thing, it's not just one-off. They will have another one with another deadline date on it, so we can obviously tackle it at the next one. Yeah, so we can have a look at that if and when we get permission for the speed watch signs. We can perhaps have a look at that and other grant opportunities.
Okay, okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Finance.
Payments fall into sort of two categories really. The statutory payments 1414, which is Jason, HMRC, GB Sports and Clark. There's no changes in any of those, they're all standard. And then we've got the variable payments, which is the Royal British Legion wreath. The SALP subscription, which is quite late this year, but we have finally got it, 332.17 pence. And the Wessex Water account for the half year to October, £118.48. So they're the all payments basically.
May I have a proposal for agreeing to those?
John?
And all those in favour? Thank you.
Okay.
Just before we move on,
Yeah.
the wreath, is it coming to you, Peter? Is that?
I'll fetch it. But are you laying it?
Apparently, yes.
Yeah.
I've got to be
Do
trained.
you want me to take it to your house, or do you want me to bring it to the church?
You take it. Can you bring it up if you're passing, please?
Okay.
Pretty please. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
That's kind of you. Being trained on Saturday, it seems.
What?
Be laying eggs on Saturday.
It's a serious business, isn't
Yes. Got to do it right.
it? Yeah.
Last time I did it, it was reversing arms because I had to do it as an army cadet with the rifles.
What you've got to be careful of is when you walk up, it's uphill, okay, which is easy.
It's
You
going
take a step back to faith, and so you've got to be careful, particularly if it's wet.
Dignity is everything.
Dignity is everything. I shan't wear the kit. Other finance matters.
Otherwise, a grant request, we did put an application in, or we put a proposal in the big hand for anybody to come forward with any grant requests in the village of a community nature. Nothing at the moment, they've just gone out.
So it's in this one.
So obviously that's ongoing really. Precept consideration, this is an important one because we're going to be discussing precepts at the next meeting and making it probably a decision, certainly no later in January. And really, it's just a question for you. I should produce a budget before then, so before you come to the next meeting, I'll produce the budget proposal, which will have our actual spending for this year, what our forecast spending is, and what I anticipate any growth areas, and then it's up to you then to decide whether any spending issues you want to add to that, and generally what our precepts should be set at for the forthcoming year.
Thank you.
Also, whilst we're on that, I meant to mention it under the clerk's thing, but the January meeting is very close to the New Year. It's the day after almost, well, it's actually 2 days after. And what we did last year was we moved it to the second Wednesday.
Correct.
Is that something you would care to consider as well? Because I think it's important because we just won't get any, a lot of things that we would normally do, we won't get until the first week in January. So the meeting in January could be quite fruitless in a way. So I don't know whether there is any resistance to the second week in January.
Can we not just agree that going forward we will have the January meeting in the second week? That was simplify it.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
So why can't we do away with January and have one in August?
Okay. Nothing else there actually on finance.
Right. Use of newly adopted telephone kiosk deferred from October meeting. So really, it's a general debate, I guess.
Yeah, I had a couple of bits and pieces back actually.
What through the
Well, I had, not through BT, but actually I had something from Caroline.
big hair, right?
Caroline came back to me, and so did the school. The school are actually having a little bit of a project at the moment to come up with some ideas, which obviously we can put in the mix for consideration. And I'm just trying to think what Caroline was of the view that maybe using it as an information centre was quite a good idea. It says here, and this is what she's written to me, I keep on being asked what's going to happen to it. Most people suggest a library, but I don't really like the idea, partly because me and the parish all sell second-hand books. I think it would be a dumping ground. How about setting up a mini tourist information point promoting local activities and events? Print off some local walks, maps, something else I'm often asked about. We could get tourist information from Burnham, and I'm sure Viv will point us in the right direction. So that's what's come from Caroline. And the school are looking at it also.
The school, by the way, I was talking to Chris Bowen the other day, is very keen on the idea and was hoping that the children will come up with something. I know it hasn't, I saw it yesterday actually, nothing is further.
So shall we defer the issue to the next meeting, and hopefully by then the children will
Maybe.
come up with a possible conclusion. I do like the idea of Caroline's
So,
proposals.
yeah.
John, can I just ask, have we heard anything more about the painting? Is that
No, I've got to talk to I have got to talk to Andy about that because we've got the kit. It just needs a quote to do the job now.
Probably
so
one
yeah,
time of the year now, isn't it?
probably maybe, but I'll ask him anyway.
Yeah.
Because he might have done them before for other people, so he knows what the paint hardens are like and so forth. Yeah.
Right, okay, moving on. Place surface areas. Have you heard? Did you manage to speak to anybody?
Yeah, we met Scott Mason, three of us, and he was very, very helpful and suggested something which I've forgotten the name of already.
Yeah, I must admit I've forgotten the name, but essentially it's shredded, correct if I'm wrong,
Shredded.
it's shredded rubber which is mixed with a compound which sets, and it's if you like, it's sort of self-levelling to a certain extent, and so far that it runs out to the side and levels itself.
You wouldn't have any of the cracks, so you've got the tile.
You've got a
You
solid
don't have an edging board either.
no edging board, and it could be laid on top. If we take up the rubber tiles, there's obviously a layer there, probably a concrete layer, a cement layer, and it can be laid on top of that perfectly. Scott Mason's perfectly happy with it. They've got an example at East Brent, and the next, I suppose, trip is to East Brent just to have a look at it. Scott did suggest that we try to negotiate with the contractor directly, because normally, say, Sutcliffe's or whoever would go to them and then put a markup on it if we were their clients. So he's given us the direct contact for the people, and I suggest that we get essentially, I think we'll probably get a quote for doing all the services, and then probably pick them off one by one, or at least
Bearing in
come up with
mind our
a
current
strategy.
rules, we ought to have more than one quote. Are there options?
I'm not sure whether there's another contractor that does it. It's pretty specialist.
I agree, but because it's going to be over £500, I suspect.
Well, the only alternative then is to go to Sutcliffe's and go to another plate manufacturer and another plate manufacturer.
I guess,
and
can't,
get
but you
the
know
three
where
quotes.
we know where I'm coming from, because we have to prove as
Yeah, well,
Andrew's made. We've got to prove that we're using taxpayers'
Okay.
money.
No, it was a
in
very,
appropriate way.
I felt it was a very positive meeting.
Yes, very
He
good.
was
he's very good. He's really
very
good.
good chap.
Very
So,
good.
who can we? Do you want to do it yourselves, or should we get Owen to approach these people to get the quotations, or how should we proceed?
I think what we could, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, that we'll go and have a look at it, and then we'll come back and we'll measure the areas, and then we'll come back to you and decide. We'll tell you how much it is, and we'll, if we need 3 quotes, we'll have to search for 3 people and then come back to you.
I'm just mindful these days of the rules we've written that we have to comply with.
Well, blame you then.
And if you go out to 2 other people and ask how much it's going to cost to be tiled,
No, it's easier to have the. Sorry.
Sorry, it's just to get if
The problem we've got there is that there's two problems. If you retile, you're going to have to put a restraining edge around the outside, and then what do you use for the timber?
you've been told that these people are the only people that do it. Surely there's an exception.
I didn't see anything in the thing that came round. I might have a Google.
We'll try and find out.
Yeah, we'll have a look.
But we'll get
But
together.
it's obviously got
This is
over
the
by
stage, don't we,
the
say, at this stage?
No, over by the there's an area which is actually sinking. The tiles have actually done that, and that would take that out, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Put that levelling compound in.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Notice board considerations.
Well, we dealt with that. We can't do anything until we've set the precept and we know what budget is available to us to do that. Really, because it's £1,000 at least.
Okay, dog bin in provision.
Yeah. We've had 2.
Station Road, oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, it's the eyes. For that.
No, it's, well, yeah, Station Road.
Sorry, Station Road,
Yes.
I mean, we had a very positive, well, I thought very positive meeting this afternoon, and I was quite impressed with the parties involved. Are there any specific issues that councillors would like to raise? Other than, can we ask as many of you to be perhaps at the event in 2 weeks' time?
What time is that?
3 till 7.
3 to 7.
17th.
15.
15.
2 weeks to do.
That's right.
Do we need to be here for the whole 4 hours?
I don't think so.
So if I do the late turn,
Yeah, if you're happy, I'm quite happy. I'm happy to come down early.
What's the date of it, Mr Chairman?
Sorry?
15.
15th, oh, geez.
I'll try. I think it starts 3 o'clock, isn't it?
3 o'clock. Yeah.
The only thing is, do drop the key.
It's the Jubilee Room, and Bob's got the keys to the Jubilee Room, of course.
Because last time we had an event, I think there was an issue with access at that time.
I've got a key as well, which I've had for ages, but I'm not supposed to know that.
That's what we don't know.
We didn't
I
say
don't,
Yes.
I don't let it out on my side, but it is here.
Are you planning to come to that day or not?
Yes.
Could you be on an early shift? And then if Bob and I are early and Peter's late,
Should we all decide now what times to come?
I've got 3.
Is it that one?
John?
Yes.
3. Bob, what time do you want to come?
I'll go for 3
It's a
till
Wednesday,
9.
it's a Wednesday, isn't it?
I don't know.
Philip?
I'll say 4 till 5 or whatever.
4, don't know.
I'll
So
say
if
at 5 o'clock.
Open it. I'll come at 3 then. No, come
I'm going to be here at 3, so
on. Okay.
because I need to eat later.
So you're not talking?
To yourself.
Sim,
Yeah.
what time do you let
What time's left?
A second at 4, anything for 5 and 6. I'll come at 6.
Oh,
So you're doing an hour then, or whatever?
4 or 5?
I'll do 4 then.
4?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
John? 5?
I said I'm doing 3 now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, you have.
I might do 3 till 5.
Not yet.
I'll do about 3 to 5.
Richard, what time are you going to do?
I'll do 3 till 5.
Well, I'll do 3 to 3 last.
Yeah, because
No.
Unless there's some 7-foot people in here with big clubs.
I was going to say, yeah. Wear hard house, please.
I've got Malcolm, of course, so Malcolm comes.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Here we go.
now moving on to the excitement of dog wins.
Yes.
And I say I have every sympathy from the gentleman on Burton Road I spoke to, who you probably all saw, Owen circulated his letter or email. He's having dog mess put in his front, or deposited at the front of his property. And despite what people may think, there's an awful lot of dog owners in Burton Road. Jenny's got 7 for a start. Dogs.
So the 2 areas we've had communication on is Crooked Lane, Station Road area, and Middle Street, Burton Road area. So the 2 areas have been suggested.
Where would you propose that you put a bin then in Burnham Road?
The corner of
Middle Lane.
Crooked Lane.
What, Burton Road?
Burton Road and Middle Street, that junction.
Middle
Yeah.
Street.
Not Crooked Lane, John.
No.
We're talking about
It's Station Road.
No, we're talking about Burton Road.
We also talked about Crooked Lane and Station Road.
No,
The question was, rightly, was Burton Road. Peter, you were going to say something?
I would like to suggest that they put it on the entrance to the hillside.
Mm.
That would cover Station Road, Burton Road, because most people walk from their property onto the hill.
Yeah.
A lot of dog walkers around our way, with respect, walk down Middle Lane. And they go over the railway bridge. Some of them even go all the way to the coast and exercise their dogs on the
Or
beach.
maybe we should put one on the sands then.
What, so you're saying on the corner of Middle Street, at Burton Road? Is there sufficient?
Three.
Crooked Lane's bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, I thought we were going to
More
have two.
properties,
We're not having two.
more properties in Station Road and
Sorry.
South Bank, close and that up that
It's
end.
not- with respect, it's not the number of properties, it's the number of dog walkers.
On that one, which way they go?
But I don't know.
I think there's also, in terms of Middle Street, it is just working out where you put it, because as you come out of Middle Street, on the left-hand side you've got the Reen,
Yes.
on the right-hand side you've got someone's
Hedge.
private version hedge. So I'm not quite sure
I
where
don't
you
know
would
where you put
locate it.
Can you not put it on that corner by the ring? Assuming they don't throw it in the ring, which they probably would anyway.
But if it's on that corner, it's going to obstruct your vision as you're driving out of Middle Street. You're looking immediately to your left, aren't you? And that, if you put a bin there, it's going to be right in your spline.
If it goes in Middle Street, it won't be down like deep into Middle Street and under the railway bridge. I maintain more property, more people. Well, from my kitchen I can see maybe one dog walker per hour walks along the footpath. It comes out from the old post office.
But again, if we're going to do Station Road area, where would it go in Station Road?
Oh, as you leave the Burton Road, Station Road corner, if you climb the hill, everybody enters the hillside walk there. Same as if you go up to the church on the hillside.
It's interesting. So should you have one at the gate that enters where you go up the hill, and then one at Sue Boss's, where you come through the stile on Hill Lane, then, to cover that very popular section of for dog walkers?
There's a gate next to the side place, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what you're thinking, yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
Worth maybe starting off with, go for one at the bottom of the footpath that Peter suggested, because that will cover a number of areas and we can see how well it gets used.
Yeah.
Because it might well be that people can then use
Well,
that.
if it doesn't get used, then we all
We
decide
could
to
resign
move it or get rid of it.
Presumably we get feedback from Station Road who liked it.
Probably all the time in motion.
Can I just clarify that, because I'm not entirely sure what you mean actually, so I need to just get and focus on where you are. Yes.
You know where the affordable housing site is?
Yes.
Directly opposite is the side,
Next to the house.
and to the left is a gate.
Right. So it's there.
And the
It's there.
footpath, it's there.
But I'm not
Let's-
sure.
Next door's the finger post.
Okay. Fine.
Now, we put it on your budget there,
Sorry?
The same.
Well,
Because they
then. Somewhere.
Who owns the land?
Yeah.
So it's
Still
terrible.
was there.
Who owns the land? Well, that's
They
stupid.
don't know.
I think it's table.
It might just go behind.
They also
It's getting owned by the commission.
church.
Can I just clarify also exactly what bin we want to go for, because there's a selection here. It's not as simple as just deciding what, it's a question of deciding what bin. The ones we have at the moment are these post-mounted ones, aren't they? The bin black,
Yeah.
50 litres, and then a charging supply and fit to existing post at 133.39. Supply and fit to a new post, which I guess is what this would be, 179.49, and then emptying and replacing the bag £2.68 per week. So that's about £100 and something a year, isn't it?
Bob reckons there's a post we could use, so it's just a question of attaching it to an existing post.
So it'll be that one then, 133.39.
And can I propose we use the same bin, otherwise we get a deluxe bin and then everybody goes
The
complaining.
same red bin.
So-
Yeah.
It's a red bin, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
An empty one.
There's a dog bin there, 40 litres, slightly smaller one. Supply. I will ask Karen if she'll make sure she fits the same as we've got now, whatever that is,
To match.
to match. We've got a set.
Okay.
Chairman, when they come to do it, will they liaise with someone so
Yeah.
they know exactly where to?
Yeah, so if it's liaise with somebody.
Excuse me, on the end of AX81.
AX.
8.
Okay.
Ah.
Okay. I will do all that. That's all out.
Yeah.
Are we going to discuss Crooked Lane now as well, or we'll just leave it for the time being?
Well, I think the suggestion was we do want to see how popular it is. That is the expression.
Well, someone doing a parish surgery about Crooked Lane, maybe stop having a club down in Crooked Lane.
But then potentially that could serve there as well.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're going to want to walk
They're
that
not going to
way.
run and walk.
Yeah.
Whereabouts would they want it in Crooked Lane?
I would suggest at the start.
At the start, right? Up Station Road.
Turn in, right,
Yeah.
because it is flat down
Is there anywhere we can actually have it? Is there a post we can use existing, or would we have
there. I
to?
don't know. There might be. I will investigate and cut it back.
Okay, well, then we can't see it. We can-
So,
Can we note that for the next
Yeah.
meeting?
So it's definitely order one.
Yeah.
Get started on one.
And David will have
Yeah.
a suitable site for Crooked Lane.
But the next item is to consider SID being reglazed, but SID has been reglazed.
John is mastermind on that.
And a
Good
good job,
show.
a good job has been done.
Yeah, there it is.
Good.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant.
It was interesting, I took it up to area, just so that you know. They were going to replace everything, but they decided they couldn't.
So good.
And so what they did is they cut out the clear area where the winking sign is, and they actually cut that out and have, what is the right word? Well, stuck, but actually they actually inserted a piece of glass in there, a piece of unbreakable perspex,
Fantastic.
and it was less than 50 quid.
Very good.
Very good.
I think they did very well.
Yeah.
And we presume it works.
We presume.
Well, Richard said it did when he tested it. So,
Good.
do you want me to? Are you going to take it, or do you want me to take it? Down to you.
I'm not going that way.
I'll take it down.
You sure?
You take me home with it, so I don't get left home.
Is it worth asking Richard that we avoid
Yeah.
the site where it got clobbered last time, that we don't use that area?
Maybe we look
Because it
I'll send them an email.
was slightly in a hedge, so I think it
Where was it?
was Burton Row near, not far from Pink Cottage, it was the one in the name.
It is a narrow bit of road.
Is that not somewhere we need it?
We might just need to find another sign to attach to, because the one that it was attached to is half in a hedge, so you don't, if particularly with a big farm vehicle, which I think is
Do we
what
have
was
narrow
to,
bit.
do we have to get the police permission
Yeah.
for that? So we need
I'm
to.
not sure it's pleased
Well,
sideways.
it would be Dave Graham just to make sure.
Sideways.
Yeah.
What's the fitting on the back? Can you change the fitting? Can you check that? Put it on one side?
Because we can take the brackets off that
Take the
side and
brackets
move it
off.
onto another
Move
one.
it on somewhere else.
Well, it's a hook thing, which goes onto the square bracket. There it is, that bar.
TV screen.
This hooks onto a large
Right.
black square thing which holds the
Yeah.
batteries. Okay?
Can you put it inboard rather than it sticks out in the road?
Not there, not where he
Oh,
had it sighted. This is what Bob's saying. Take it off and not sight it there.
So who would identify another site? Is that down to Richard?
I think Richard's got some identified sites that he had a list of them, didn't he?
Yeah, and he just needs to get that ticket off with Dave Grabban, that's all, make sure Dave's happy to.
Because there's 31 hour repeaters all the way along there, it's just getting one that's slightly further off the highway than this one, which is quite close.
I'll send Richard an email just to say that, you know,
Well,
we'd
thank-
rather avoid the existing.
Thanks you to all concerned for doing
Yeah,
that.
thanks, John.
Yes,
Great
it's
job.
good. Adult exercise.
Well, as you know, this letter appeared in the Brent Knoll News, and so we've had a very poor response so far. Just 3 people, that's all. I wonder if one or two options, as far as I can see. One is to put it in again and remind people, please could they, if they're interested, put their name to it, put it back in the post office, or abandon the idea altogether.
Well, I think if we give it another go. And if we have minimal return, then we abandon.
I mentioned the fact that you've had some return.
We've had 3.
I could do. I'll write a short version of this.
Okay.
Just for information, Mr. Chairman, when Scott emailed me with the details of the contractor, he did say in our, is it RLT 3 that we have, or 2? 2. We have 80 pence,
Yeah.
but we have a promise if everything goes through about 3,000 if everything went through, potentially, through developments that are potentially going on. So it might well be that there's a bit of money in there in the future to help.
And the final item, not the final item, the homework that was set by Brian.
Yeah, I've had some back from people.
Do you want to put leather on it?
No, just one for
You
about
don't get
the
gold stars.
what does your parish council do? Remember? And Owen sent a reminder out this week for you to bring these
Yeah, I didn't
with your
sorry.
additions.
So perhaps in the next week or two, could you
You
just
let
send
me
some-
have them and then I'll
and then
Brian's
Brian's
going to go with that for the next meeting.
Yeah,
I think I've got it here.
Control of my email.
I haven't noticed it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Middle Street footpath.
No. Oh. Owen, could
Get
you
it back-
put
get it back to
put
where
this
your
on
additions.
on the
Oh,
screen?
yeah, I've got it on there. I've got a map on it, actually.
Yeah.
Just hold on to yourself for a minute.
I
I'll
haven't
get
got
set
one.
up.
Page
Right.
14.
Yeah.
Page 14.
Oh, same part, I'll get you one. Have that one.
Have you
got-
that bit on the bottom now?
Sorry, it's the wrong one, isn't it? Can you pass that back? It's the wrong sheet.
I'm sorry.
You're busy.
I just really like it just anyway.
Did you put something out? Because I haven't had it.
Yeah, I gave it
It was circulated at last
So
night.
I got there, so it's not
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, I've got it.
Oh, it's on the block, isn't it?
I'm ready. It's about
Circulated.
When you see that list of all the things that have been done.
It's amazing what we have done.
I'll have to
Can you-
print one off to you and send it to you, or drop it in.
Email it if you want to.
Yeah, could do. All right. And send, I'll send
Yeah,
them to you,
okay, thanks.
okay, because these have been written on.
It's all from the best corner.
It's with fire.
If there's anything missing.
That's it. That's it.
Right.
Right. Okay. Bob put me in touch with a guy called John Grimshaw, who runs a company called Greenways, who were responsible for the new green cycleway that I don't know if many of you know that you can now
Yes.
cycle.
I've done it.
Have you?
Want to,
Okay.
to Western, to
Yes.
the shipyard.
That's it, yeah, and then on to bring his organisation were responsible for that, and I met up with him. Bob put him in touch with us, and I spoke to him, and I met him, and we cycled or walked. His proposal, first of all, is that he would like to refurbish this stretch of area down to Ford Common here from Middle Street. So as you know, when you go down Middle Street, you hit a gate, and then there's a bridleway which is completely overgrown. It's in a poor state. It's about 2 kilometres, and it really is uneven, but a lovely walk. I don't know if you've ever been down there. You can't cycle down there, but you can walk. And it's a great walk, it's really remote. And what it would comprise of The national cycle path goes down the beach, in theory, and then joins here. That's the existing road, which would also be a cycle path, but his belief is that it's safer for people to ride along the beach. But if Middle Street, we've got Crooked Lane, which we've already done now, through our efforts, into Brent Knoll, through Brent Knoll, down Middle Street, and you can do a super circle, but you can also, if you ride through the caravan parks here, you can pick up the coast track onto Breen Down and into Weston-super-Mare and uphill. So the whole thing links up. He's a really nice chap, and his organisation will get the funding, and they will organise the contractor, and they will, if you like, supervise and do the work. What they want, Brent Knoll Parish Council and also the Parish Council here, Barrow, to join in partnership with them to support this new proposed route. What he wants, if you like, us to do, which I'm quite happy to do, is to speak with the drainage board, because the track runs alongside existing watercourses, and also Chris East. Is he still there? Is he still? He was talking about retiring, but to speak with these two statutory bodies, for want of a better word, to see how they felt about it and any criticisms they've got. But we also need to identify landowners in this area, which might be a bit more difficult, but then Chris East and Matthew Wall may know and guide us, but they are happy also to deal with the landowners as well. So what we would need to do is just get in touch with Breen. They're already aware of it anyway. Just ask them Barrow, sorry, to work with us, and I'd like, if you like, your agreement that I can go ahead and speak with Chris East and.
Do you see then on that
Matthew.
basis, Colin, that there will be no financial implications?
No.
Unlike, we did make £1,000 of revenue contribution.
He doesn't want money from us.
Well, the only thing is that it's a metal drone up as far as, well,
The bridge, isn't it?
It's metalled up to probably
move your
just
finger along.
just about here.
Hey, right, stop.
Yeah.
That-
Is
that's
it about there?
long.
There is.
No,
Where
that-
the line comes.
See that?
There.
See that right angle there?
Show me David. There.
That's it.
All right. Yeah. That's
Oh,
right. Yeah. It's metalled to there, and then there's a gate.
You can drive to there.
Which is
Well,
very
in my
low.
truck, I've driven to there when the drainage board had a
Yeah.
blockage.
You can't cycle it though.
no, but you can
Yeah.
get
You
the way
can
through
go.
there.
Yeah.
You need
But
to
it's
put
a
pretty heavy
superb.
Mm.
It really is superb. The track through there. And if you
Is the
can,
railway bridge marked on there, Colin?
I was looking for that, but presumably
It's
it's
there.
there.
Back,
It's
back, 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 back.
There's a
There.
railway.
Yeah.
railway.
Yeah, there's the railway there.
That's a fault.
Yeah, there's the railway.
You see, if you come along there's a track that comes off of that lane, just as big as the green lane, at Barrow Wall, where you
Where's
just had your finger just now.
there?
Go on, stop. And you can come back
That
to
goes back to the
Brent Road.
Oh, I see. This one here.
That's
Oh,
one.
yes, that's right. When we saw that, but that doesn't form part of his plan. His
No.
plan is to
Yeah.
go all the way up there to link with his existing track. I thought it was really good.
Brilliant idea.
But that's all, most of that is David Trapp,
Paul Baker,
John
John Whelan.
Is it?
And there's a bit of.
there's most of that outside there.
Can you give me those?
Yeah,
stones
so
there?
pretty much right on a map who
Okay.
says what.
Thank you.
So
That would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I can give those to Greenways, and they can
That'd be a
start the
good start.
So
process.
has anybody got any objection that A, proceed with this, and B,
Thanks.
Colin has the authority to
Yeah.
start the ball rolling and liaising?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think, Colin, you've got carte blanche, please.
Thank
You're
you.
happy to do
I'll
that?
contact him now and tell him. Because I said I wouldn't do anything until I'd spoken to you.
But I guess that's the new year, isn't it?
Yeah. What's the parish council again?
No financial, no financial
Should
whatsoever.
be a block.
Probably a fair around the green, is that?
Mm.
Just look at the councils, you could be a green.
Green or green?
Brilliant. The local school is brilliant.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Green.
That's brilliant. I guess that's a new year project, they've got.
Sorry?
New year project.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
This guy's a super guy, isn't he?
Not all bench replacement.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Off the top.
Oh, it's me again, sorry. The triangle, as you know, Church Lane, the bench was repaired, the Nuttall Trust bench was repaired and it's now collapsed completely. It wasn't repaired very well. It's really beyond repair. At the last meeting you asked me to look at wooden benches, which I have done, but Martin Wilkins, who is, if you like, taken over from Tony Hill now, trustee of the Nuttall Trust, would prefer us, or prefer to supply a bench very much like that with cast iron ends, very much like the one outside, because he said if it does need repairing then you just replace the slabs.
Yes, that's a good idea.
So that, I haven't priced it, but what I would suggest is that we're obviously efficient from a VAT point of view. If we were to make this a project and I were to make an application to the Nuttall Trust for funds to replace that bench, then we could buy it and it would be a bit more economically viable, because it is a more expensive bench.
Would it need installing in a secure manner?
I would think so, and also we'll have to provide a little plaque, but then I'm sure John can help me with a little
I'm
plaque.
sure we can
just
put a
about-
cost into it, and then, because by the sound of it, the impression rather was that the Nuttall Trust would fund the whole thing,
Well,
effectively.
they will, but grant time's coming up in January, February time, isn't it? So I can make the claim, and then Martin will put this forward. Suggest we make a claim ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So is everyone happy with
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Very good idea.
It's
just
what
so
we do.
I fully understand, we get them to agree it before we order it.
I would suggest that. I mean, nothing's going to happen to that bench now. It really needs to be taken out.
Yeah, okay.
And they'll just have to wait until
That's
we
fine.
get the funds.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you.
Portland Place fence.
Yeah, we, Portland, you know, Bella and I went to visit Jeremy Evans this afternoon, just so we could actually see what the encroachment actually was. And yes, he has encroached the public area, public highway, you could call it, I suppose, by about, probably that much. You see the original fence there, and he's put a new fence in its place. So really it's a question of whether, I don't know, Bob, what's the next stage? Do we have to move it to the enforcement
I guess
team?
if he'd come back and said he was happy to move it, then that he deals with it. If not, then it's potentially both planning and highways, because highways might be interested because he's technically taken over as part of the highway. Planning might be interested because it's closer than a metre away from the highway and it's taller than a metre high, so it may well be that it's probably as well just to flag it up to both.
But at this stage, do we do anything?
Well, as I say, that's the decision that the parish council have to make, as to
Okay.
whether
Do
they
we
wish to
do we
pass it
wish
on
to-
to the others to take
Do we
it.
wish to take it further?
Is he prepared to do anything is the question, I guess.
Well, his argument, when he gave us an explanation as to why he'd done what he'd done, and the reason why he'd done what he'd done was because he's clearing up a very, very damaged hedge, taking all that out and put a fence in place. So what he's done by doing that, he's actually put it in front of the existing boundary. So he's actually taken up some of the public land. I mean, it looks a bit like a sort of sore thumb because he's done it in this sort of orangey yellow colour, isn't it, all the way along one side. So it looks worse, probably, than it is.
But it's neater.
It is neater actually, in some ways. I mean, I didn't see it before, but you definitely need to.
Rubbish, you know, just a mess.
So really it's a question of the council.